The old man's leather shoes suddenly cracked. Keiko took one look and saw that something was wrong. He pulled out his gun and shot the old man, but he didn't kill the old man. He just wanted to shut him up. Johnny knew that the shoe was. He knew there was a police bug inside his shoes. He took off the old man's leather shoes. He threw them into the river. The police here thought Keiko had killed the old man, but who was the old man? He helped the police to arrest Keiko. I'm surprised Keiko didn't kill him. Just before last week, the drug lord brought Keiko to China with him. They were going to sell drugs to Chinese drug dealers. First they went to a dental shop for dental treatment. It was ready to close. The doctor was still open to see their teeth. Just across the street from the dentist, in a noodle shop, a transaction was taking place. Both parties paid with one hand and delivered with the other. Suddenly the buyer reneged and arrested the seller. It turns out the buyer is a policeman, but they'd been tricked. The police tasted it and found it was flour. It turned out to be a deliberate arrangement by Kung to clear the mines. The police escorted them back to the station. Halfway to the station, the seller took a look at Kungja. This made the old policeman suspicious. He told Kungja to destroy the flour. Hurry up and destroy the flour. Xiangzi got up to go to the bathroom. The old policeman wanted to see what was going on. Suddenly the drug lord pulled out his weapon. He shot at the old cop. A fierce gun battle ensued. Keiko destroyed the evidence in the bathroom. Soon after, the drug lord was dead on the scene. Johnny kidnapped the dentist's daughter. He then escaped through the back door. Keiko wanted to kill the girl, but he saw him as too pathetic, so he took him back to Burma with him. When Keiko returned to the base, he told the boss's son, "Brother Black, your father has been arrested." Black was furious. He was going to kill the girl. Keiko wanted to protect the girl, so he said the girl could get your father back. On this side, De Chong went to Burma alone to save his daughter. He went to Burma alone to find her. The police also installed a bug in his shoes. He had a bug in his shoes. When he arrived in Burma, he was caught by a drug lord. Black told him to bring back his father in 10 days. If he didn't see him after 10 days, he would kill his daughter. Suddenly Kung Zi noticed his shoes. He didn't say anything. Instead, when he was walking De Chong back alone, he threw the shoes into the river. But Johnny didn't have any good intentions. It turned out that the flour hadn't been emptied last time. He had hidden some of it on the toilet ceiling, so Keiko needed De Chong to help him retrieve the flour. When the job is done, Keiko will let the girl go. When he got back, he found the flour. He was going to ransom his daughter, but he was caught by the police on the spot. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. He didn't wait for De Chong. He knew something was wrong, so Kung was prepared to raise the girl alone. Here the 10 days were up. Black was going to kill the girl. To protect the girl, he used his years of connections, gathered a large number of his men. He killed Black and his men. In this way, the drug lord's father and son were all killed. This made Xiangzi the boss. 10 years later, De Chong was released from prison. The girl, Dan Dan, had grown up. Xiangzi took Dan Dan to visit his father. He knew they would have a lot to talk about, so he leaves them alone. When De Chong saw his daughter, he told her to get rid of Xiangzi. As a result, his daughter did not listen to her father. The two of them had a bad breakup. It turns out that Dan Dan has fallen in love with Xiangzi. Xiangzi was also very good to Dan Dan, and he built a school. He made him a teacher. The two of them are very happy with their lives. The day the school collapsed and 8 pupils died, dozens were injured. Keiko did not escape responsibility. He paid them a large sum of money. Then Keiko approached the contractor. He asked him why the house had collapsed. The contractor didn't hide from Keiko. He said that the 100,000 he had paid for the work at the beginning, the contractor had only used 30,000 for the work. This made Xiangzi very angry. He had the contractor shot dead. A few days later, Dan Dan became pregnant, so Johnny decided to stop selling drugs, but his men refused to do it. The boys kidnapped the couple. They were going to bury them alive, but the little girl saw the scene. He ran back and told his family. The girl's family had all received favors from Keiko, so they rescued them. After a few days of reorganization, they were smuggled into China. They came to take refuge with their father-in-law. Seeing his daughter return with a drug dealer, De Chong was very repulsed, but because of his daughter, he still let Xiangzi into his home. On the other hand, Xiao Mei discovered something strange. Her new neighbor, Kuan, who had moved in. Every day he makes strange noises. What Mei doesn't know is that Kuan is also a drug dealer. The strange sound, it was from his flour container. One day Mei was walking home with her dog. The dog suddenly growled at Kuan's house. Kuan knew the dog was a threat, so he waited for Mei to leave the house. He sneaked into his house. He killed the dog. At night, his brother, a policeman, took Mei home, but he found the key to the house. He had left it in his brother's car. Mei called out to the dog to open the door for him, but she waited for a long time without any response. At that moment, Kuan came out. He beat Mei half to death. Kuan had seen her. His brother sent her home. He recognized Mei's brother's identity as a policeman. He thought that Mei had called the police to arrest him, so he packed his things and prepared to leave the house. The brother went upstairs to give his sister the keys. He shouted outside the door but got no response, so he opened the door and went in. He found that his sister was not home. He called his sister on the phone. The phone rang next door. The brother realized something was wrong, so he ambushed him at the door, waiting for Kuan to get himself caught. In order to mitigate his crime, Kuan confessed to a drug lord. Keiko, it turns out that just a few days ago, Xiangzi took out the drugs he had hidden in his father-in-law's house. He was going to leave the country after disposing of it, to live in peace with Dan, so he found his old partner, Akuan, and the next day was the day of the deal. Under the supervision of the police, Akuan called Xiangzi on the phone. The two of them decided on a place to make the deal. But this time Johnny felt something was wrong. He had been working with Kuan for years. This was the first time he had brought someone along. And in the past, the place of interaction had always been at the station, but this time it was at a rice noodle shop. The police knew there was no way to hide it, so they pulled out their guns and pointed them at Kangja. Kangja opened the case. Inside was a box of drugs and a loaded weapon. Kuan immediately took out the gun inside. He shot the policeman dead. Then Johnny was ready to leave early, but Kuan said he could leave. The money had to stay. Johnny knew that Kuan wanted both the money and the goods, but Keiko had to take the money. Kuan realized something was wrong, prepared to kill Kang Tsu, but he found that his gun was out of bullets. He was shot and killed by Keiko. Johnny then took the money to the airport. When his wife was about to go up to meet him, his father pulled him back. Keiko realized what was going on. It turned out that before the transaction, father-in-law had told the police what had happened, and told them about Keiko's escape route. Keiko also knew that he was not going to make it out, so he pretended to point his gun at his father-in-law. The policemen who were waiting in ambush instantly shot Keiko into a sieve. At the last second, Keiko gave a key to his father-in-law. The father-in-law took the key with him, opened the door of the dental shop. He found a box of money inside. It turned out that Johnny knew he couldn't leave, so he transferred the money in advance, transferred it to the dental shop, and all this was done for the sake of the person he loved, and the child that was born. And so the film ends. The film Borderlands, a good film that could easily be overlooked. A solid script with an unusual narrative structure, although there are few lines throughout the film, but the excellent acting makes up for it. A very tense watch.